Effectively, Crimea, the peninsula in the south of the country, is under Russian control. That's the bottom line. There are about 6,000 troops in Crimea right now, cooperating with Russian-speaking militia. They have surrounded all of the Ukrainian military bases on the peninsula. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I should say, the Russian president got permission from the parliament to deploy forces to Crimea, to Ukraine. However, these forces appeared before that permission was received, leading some to wonder if actually maybe more troops, the real deployment, is yet to come. We just don't know. I mean, the Ukrainians, I was just listening to the Ukrainian Prime Minister a short while ago. He's saying that the Russians are refusing bilateral discussions, negotiations, and they think that this is kind of a long-term problem. They're mobilizing their military, but I don't think they have any intention of really challenging the Russian army in Crimea. So I guess the most important thing is that no shots have been fired yet, but obviously we do have a standoff.
Ryan, from Vladimir Putin's perspective, what is there to discuss? Right? If the West can't respond with force, and if the West can't respond with any economic sanctions of substance, then can he more or less not do whatever he wants?
I think that there's a lot of truth to that, Eric. I think that the only thing that President Putin possibly, because we've heard suggestions from other Russian politicians to this effect, might be willing to discuss with Ukrainian officials or Ukrainian and Western officials is the return of the ousted President Viktor Yanukovych back into the office of the presidency here in Ukraine to finish out his term until December, because it was the original deal that the opposition cut with Yanukovych, was that he was going to stay around until December, and that was when they were going to have early elections. It was only after he fled, that's basically same day, that the opposition decided, actually they're going to take power now and they're going to have those elections in May. So the Kremlin has suggested that if the powers that be now in Ukraine were prepared to allow Mr. Yanukovych to come back, then there might be something to talk about. But there's absolutely no indication whatsoever that they would be willing to do that. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think President Putin thinks, what's there to talk about? Clearly, no one sees it the same way I do, so why talk?
So what's the expectation? That Russia is going to maintain some kind of semi-permanent military presence in the Crimea, even if it doesn't go ahead and fully annex that part of Ukraine, or it's going to try and negotiate some kind of a dividing line in the country where, the west of Ukraine becomes Ukraine and the east of Ukraine becomes another Russian state? I mean, these are some of the ideas being tossed around. I have no idea, Ryan, which of them are credible and which aren't.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Eric. The idea that you would have this statelet, a sort of part of Ukraine that is not recognized by the federal government and under control of
It appears as though we have lost Ryan Chilcote, but we managed to get some very important information out of him. That is our own Ryan Chilcote on the phone with us from Kiev. And just to bring you up to speed on the latest developments, Ukraine has formally asked the United Nations Security Council for a meeting at 3:30 p.m. today to discuss the quote-unquote deterioration of the situation in Ukraine.